See, India has a great potential. Indian potential has not been planned, but we somehow have demonstrated to the world that Indians are formidable and Indian cities are vibrant economic hubs of innovation, etc.
Welcome to the IMA YouTube channel and fourth edition of the IMA Women Leadership Conclave. Well, my name is Ankita and today I have a thought leader and policy influencer, Karna Gopal Vartakaviji, who is the founder president of Foundation of Futuristic India. She is also National BJP in charge of Women Policy and Research India. So, ma'am, welcome to IMA Women Conclave series.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, ma'am, my first question is what does bolder, brighter together mean to you when it comes to building cities and communities?
Bolder, brighter. See, these are the two tenets that actually are required to make cities vibrant. Cities just cannot be built by brick and mortar. You know, you need to be bold, you need to be brilliant, you need to shine, have a vision. So that is what will drive a city to become very vibrant and nice. So I like the word bold very, very much.
And that's the IMA theme as well.
Ideas.
So, talking about vision and futurism, you're called a futurist and visionary for cities. What does a future ready city mean to you?
See, there are so many myths. I mean, the world believes that cities have to be smart, cities have to be green. But the fundamental thing about a future city for me would be a city that is livable, a city that gives maximum opportunity to everyone to at least work on their potential. Um, you should be in a position to maximize your potential, work, get something that you deserve, you know, a good livelihood, a good home, a good walkable neighborhood. Talk to people. So social return on investment is what we say. So typically, when we build city, we say, build roads, build transportation, everything. It is about return on investment in terms of just physical things. But what about happiness? What about sharing? What about your neighborhood? How do you talk to people? How do you enjoy that society, community? That's what it is.
So, we need a happy city,
I
right?
need a happy city.
Yeah. So, if you would like to describe India's urban future in one word, what would be that and why?
See, India has a great potential. Indian potential has not been planned, but we somehow have demonstrated to the world that Indians are formidable and Indian cities are vibrant economic um, hubs of innovation, etc. So I would like to say that India can set an example for the world. How do you deal with complexity? We have very complex environments. Notwithstanding everything, we are still performing. Complexity to hai, but we are still performing and we are generating revenue. We have intelligent people. We contribute not only to India but to the world. So I'm very optimistic about Indian urban system. And there may be problems now, but the problems are not insurmountable. We can solve the problems.
That is great. So, you introduced Sculpt Your City long before smart cities become a buzzword.
Right.
What inspired you and how that vision evolved?
Okay, so this initiative of mine called Sculpt Your City came from another initiative called Citizens for City. So in the year 2005, I thought, why are cities being unilaterally run? Like, why should only the governments plan the cities? Why can't citizens be an integral part of development? Like our Prime Minister says, Jan Andolan. So my tagline was, think small, think all. Let everyone work, but in a small way towards the city. So I started this initiative, involved hundreds of organizations, created a prototype, a protocol for how do you actually create a livable city, and that has been taken the content has been taken by many cities, and it's 20 years ago. And in the year 2015, when Prime Minister announced the Smart Cities mission, he called it national best practice, and it was recognized. I was recognized for the work done in 2005.
Very nice. Yeah.
So you asked me what drives me. See, for me, innovation on the go. Like, you can't be innovating sitting in one room. You have to be innovating always. Uh, if there is something there, how can we do that in a better way? So that is something that I have always. That's what inspired me. So therefore, Sculpt Your City is just my way of life. Look at something, improve it, improve the process, improve the product. That's
Or
what
that became the national best practice.
is actual best.
Yeah. So I know, ma'am, that urban cities are facing a lot of challenges. But as per you, what are the top 3 challenges and how we can tackle them?
See, in uh, cities have problems that people think that we are complaining about traffic. Okay, jo dikta hai, we think that is a problem, but we should understand that traffic and transportation causes problems like lost man hours. Like, you and I spend hours in other things, then we are not able to perform better. The second thing is the influence on health, how it will negatively impact the health. Air pollution causes heart attacks. Air pollution causes even cancer. Small cell carcinoma in the lungs is because of air pollution, which people are suffering from. So urban areas, much as they give us, they also take from us. So we have to be very conscious about um, our environmental pollution, water pollution, and safety and security. Tomorrow, if there's a terror attack, it will happen not in a rural area, it will happen only in the city.
Yeah.
So cities are prone to diseases, cities are prone to terror attacks, cities are vulnerable. So we have to be very, very careful about how we govern our cities.
Right. Now, ma'am, we'll be moving to the questions leading to women in leadership. So, because you are national in charge for policy and research, what are the most powerful ways to design women-centric policies?
See, women centric policies, everybody historically believes that women have to decide their policies. So we normally have roundtables and etc. But how about involving everyone? Like, for instance, if my health is taking a beating, why can't my husband will be the first one to know if there's something wrong with me. So involve everyone in creating women centric policies, number one. The other thing is involve all stakeholders, whoever Karuna interacts with, whoever Ankita interacts with. So this has to be a holistic approach to women. The other thing is, most important thing that in India we don't have yet is what we call as gender disaggregated data. क्योंकि health problems जो है, we always think India is a diabetes capital. So India में 60% diabetics है, but we don't know how many women have diabetes, how many men have. So gender disaggregation is something we haven't done. We need to do immediately. Incidence of cardiovascular disease, diabetes mellitus. What is the incidence for women? How are the symptoms presented? What can we do? How do we tackle? Because your treatment is different from my treatment. If you are my husband, you are different, I am different. We are bodily different, our emotions are different, our susceptibility is different, our proclivities are different. So we need that immediately in India as far as health is concerned. Livelihoods. Women can have a different set of jobs, different set of gig economy. Every little thing, women can be given a different environment. So Japan is trying to do that. Japan Prime Minister announced incentives for getting pregnant and delivering children. So we have to think differently for women.
Right. So you often say women bring a unique lens to problem solving. Could you share an example where that changed the outcome?
There are many examples. For instance, I remember once I was speaking in Singapore. I think Singapore or was it Philippines? So there is this mayor who came from Christchurch. Yeah, that is in New Zealand.
Yeah.
They had a huge earthquake there, and everyone was praising her. Why? because the minute the earthquake came, she didn't think only her government has to do. She engaged everyone in clearing the debris, in recreating, reconstructing everything. So women believe in engaging. Supposing I have 10 guests in my house and you're also a guest. I said, do you mind getting the plates onto the table, dear? So you don't mind. So I might even make my guests do work because I have the ability to include people. Whereas a man believes maybe he has to do it himself. So our ability to do things differently, see differently is what makes the cut.
Right. Okay, ma'am. So now few questions on global presence and learnings. You have represented India on international platforms like COP21, BRICS, and the World Government Summit. What global practices inspired you the most, and what lessons do you feel India can share with the world?
The global practices, for instance, simple things I'm telling you. In Singapore, they have a ministry for gardening, and there's a minister for gardens. So greenery is very important. In India, we have ministry for environment. Environment is a big thing. You have forests, you have urban forestry, you have million things coming there. But if you segregate, make more ministries, be very specific. That will be good. For instance, in India, we have Ministry for Information and Technology, but in UAE, you have a ministry for artificial intelligence. So why don't we do that? Why don't we have different ministries for different uh, expert areas so that quickly we can get things moving, bring more people in? It may be difficult for the government. It might look like a jumbo cabinet, but there's no harm. In shortest of time, you can achieve biggest things. So that's it. That's what we have to pick from other countries. But from India, what others can learn is India's regulation is brilliant. We are conservative, but we still are the best as far as our banks are stable. Our regulatory environment is very stable. Every country can pick up from India.
Agreed, yeah. Finally, if you could give our listeners one futuristic tip for living smarter and preparing for the next 10 years, what would be it?
I would want everyone to have something called situational awareness. What is situational awareness? It is when, let's say, there is a storm coming, you have situational awareness, so you protect yourself. When there is a disease that's on the threshold, you're prepared. So, when you are situationally aware, then you protect yourself from disease, harm. No one can attack you physically. The other thing is you can't be bankrupt because you're aware that your funds are going down the drain. So this is what I would say that people should have is situational awareness, which is like be present in and be aware.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So, thank you, Karuna ma'am, for gracing our podcast with your wisdom and futuristic perspectives. I'm sure our viewers are going to enjoy this podcast. Thank you so much. And thank you, IMA, for making it possible.
Yeah. Thank you.